All right, we're back with another tough topics one. Where my took a week off from doing a tough topics, not because I wanted to avoid, but because I want to spread these out because I'm running out of ideas on them. So, but yes, we're getting political again, you could say. But
Oh
though
no.
we're trying to be primarily biblical and keep the politics secondary. But with how political this subject is, we'll you'll have to forgive us if we don't stick to that perfectly. But
I'm so ready to get canceled, dude. Let's go.
oh yeah. Dude, you of all people should you're the cancel king, and somehow that has made you that alone has made you avoid being able to get canceled. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah, man. I search for cancellation and it never finds me. Just like the guy that searches for death, but he can never die. He just keeps living, you know? It's like the warrior that he's like, I must find a glorious death, but he never does because he just keeps going.
Yes. And welcome in for those watching us live. We got Gabe, Denali, Dan's, Jenkins, Dom. So good to have everyone here. Woohoo!
Hi guys.
And welcome in Hood as well. It's good to have you in here, Mr. Mutt.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to talk about this. This is actually maybe like the first time I've ever really like talked about like this type of a topic. It doesn't really come up too much in the discussions that I've had previously, so it'll be fun to talk about this for once.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Alrighty. I'm just realizing I had some notes on my phone, and now my phone is being used for the behind the scenes view on Twitter. So I'm just going to have to see how much of my notes I remember, and we'll just go from there.
Or you can just like look lovingly into Twitter's eyes as you look at your notes every single time. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, no, if I switch apps, it stops the stream.
Oh, lame.
I know. Otherwise, yeah, no, I'll be all for that. That would make the behind the scenes view even more golden.
Give Twitter a little something, something.
Alrighty, but yeah, so we're talking about Earth stewardship today, and also the other side of that coin, Earth subduing as well. Because both are biblical in their own sense. So like when it comes to the politics behind, eco-friendliness, etc. Boy howdy does that get so separated from, the purpose of the earth and the purpose of humanity, I would say. That's actually one of the major things. I was kind of talking to my pastor about this just like a week ago, just kind of like in preparation for this, because I just kind of wanted to hear his insight. And one of the things that stood out that I put in my notes is just that like so much of that ecosystem, and even you were saying this, Hood, in our little like DMs here, of just like we a lot of it is kind of like an anti-human standpoint, essentially, which because we as humans are told to subdue the earth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like, yeah, why don't you kind of give me your thoughts there, kind of on that subject, because I know that was like, because that was like the first thing that you brought up to me, and I bet you have some more to say on that.
Yeah. I've always definitely been more of the type that, pretty much like I'm a hey, don't litter and like, keep pollution down if you can. But like anytime something is at the expense of human beings to whatever degree, which oftentimes is what a lot of new Green Deal type talking points usually are. It's usually at the expense, and that usually then leads into like, hey, we have an overpopulation issue, and then they kind of play their hand and tell on themselves for what the real thing that they usually want is. They're kind of using the environment to say, we want to decrease human population. But I feel like once you start heading into territory where humans have to suffer for the sake of the environment, that really to me goes against what you see in scripture, where God basically told us, he said, have dominion, which I think is an interesting way. He says, have it. We don't have to take it. It's literally a gift given to us to take I even want to say take dominion now, to have dominion and to subdue it like you're saying. And but it's something that, yes, we steward and take care of because it's a gift to us. But especially in the world that we live in now, I don't think it should ever be like the world was made for us. It's kind of it falls in the same line to me as when you see God say, all things are good to eat now, even though in the beginning the plants were just he specified that was for us and the animals to eat, and then afterwards he says, okay, but now all things are good to eat. Well, why are all things good? Because ultimately the earth was for us. So you even see God exemplify that when man first falls, and God is actually the first one to kill animals and clothe Adam and Eve with them, which kind of tells you it's like, hey, other things are less than, like, the earth and its inhabitants are less important than mankind, and it kind of gives this great separation for like our like specialness, our what's the word I'm trying, like our identity. I don't know what exactly word you want to use there, but our place in the kingdom of God versus the rest of creation, which, yes, is a gift to us, and we shouldn't squander that. We shouldn't treat it like trash, which is why we have things like animal abuse rights and that, whatever, those types of things. That's why we want to try to keep pollution down. But again, I think people can take it way too far to the point that it's like, hey guys, we got to get rid of all fossil fuels and then just go to wind and solar. But then any country that's ever done that, they have like continuous brownouts forever and ever and ever. It's not to say that those things couldn't work in the future. They just don't work perfectly right now. So the fact that they want to push that onto people and make people suffer for the sake of, this invisible like sun monster that's coming for us, it's which I find ironic. I know I'm kind of rambling right now. I find that ironic because the same people that usually say that, like, oh, the sun, they don't say it that way, but it's like, oh, we're gonna burn up and die. It's like you're afraid of this invisible thing, but then you make fun of us for believing in God, which I think is really funny. It's usually the same people. But even like stuff like sea levels and stuff, they talk about that rising and stuff, and it's like, but it's done that throughout history. So many years pass and it rises a little bit, so many years pass and it lowers a little bit. Like, it's done that. The earth fluctuates as time goes on. But truly, I feel like there's a big operation to try and gaslight people into thinking it's almost over, and they've been saying this for like years. It used to be like 8 more years and then the world's gonna burn up, and then they're like, actually 12 more years when that 8 years came, and they're like, and they keep changing the number because it's all just to try and gain control in the end of the day. Does that mean that we don't take care of the earth at all? No, obviously not. But I'm just saying, like, that's what makes me a little apprehensive to some of the greater initiatives that go beyond just, hey, like, don't throw your big gulp out of the window on the expressway. That's different to me. So
no, I agree. Yeah. Cause and we should add that as a caveat here, that neither of us are going to sit here and like promote polluting. No, absolutely not.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, like, I just to give kind of my high level view on things, like, I installed solar on my house, which I am still fighting with the energy company on. They won't let me turn it on. Let me use my solar. Gosh darn it, I had it installed in February. But anyways. And then no, I need to not rant on that right now. That we'll save that for after stream. but anyways, and I recycle. I will go out of my way. I will like bring a bottle home if the person's house I'm at does not have a place to recycle. Specifically, like, metal and paper is the most recyclable. Plastic questionable as to if that is truly recyclable. So sometimes if I don't see an option to recycle, plastic could go in the trash, in my opinion. But because that's really where some of that plastic ends up anyways. That or in a giant block sitting in China waiting for someone to waiting for that's the other thing about the plastics. They have them sitting in blocks in China waiting for them to be economically viable to recycle, because it's just not worth the technology's there, but the economics are not. So
Yeah, and that's kind of like what you were saying in our DMs too. Is that like, well, I think you were like heading towards this direction, but this is kind of mixing what you said with what I've come to understand, which is a lot of recycling efforts actually do the opposite. They don't actually they actually take more resources to recycle, depending on what the thing is. Especially, I've heard it kind of more broadly, but it sounds like from what you were saying, it's mostly like the plastics that kind of happens with. But it's actually like worse for the environment in the end by trying to recycle, because of the way the process has to work. So it's kind of goofy, some of the types of processes that they try to do. But yeah, I have a ton of respect for people who think the same way that you do, like taking your bottle home so that you can try to recycle it properly and stuff like that. I think the only time I start again getting that, anytime I would ever get kind of like on anybody's case at all over anything, would just be like when you have the people that they don't just say like, oh, this is, because like this is what you feel convicted on, this is what you feel like, this is what God, hey, this is what I feel like God wants me to do, but you don't go around like treating people like trash because of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Some people try to go up to other people and say like, hey, you need to be convicted of the same thing that I am. And it's just kind of like, okay, but now you're heading again. You're in your own way. You're starting to treat people as lesser than the environment, just verbally instead of physically now. So it's like that's the only time I would ever really have an issue. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't mind. I've worked for companies where like that's one of the main parts of their initiative. They have to comply with like OSHA regulations and stuff like that. And it's like their whole thing is like, how can we reduce everything to like zero waste? How can we like reuse the stuff that we're doing? How can we recycle? How can we do? So like, I'm definitely no stranger to that mentality, and I think it's good when companies are trying to do that. It's just, again, like I'd be all for alternative sources of power if they were feasible and actually worked. That's usually the problem, is they don't work the way that they are advertised. So it's like, I'm gonna keep using the things that work then, because and I'm also gonna tell other people to do the same thing, because I don't want them to suffer either. So
yeah. Oh gosh, when it comes to corporations, because everyone wants to like get some like there I believe in some cases there are some financial incentives which varies from country to country as to what those incentives are. But though also just the like social cred that they get from like planting trees on top of our headquarters and things
you're so
like
right.
that.
I wasn't even thinking of that.
Yeah.
So
But no, yeah, there's a lot of like commercial aspects to that aren't honestly doing much, because the whole concept of a carbon footprint, which we started alluding to a little bit there, like because behind the scenes of things is a lot more murky as to like how much you are spending carbon wise to save carbon wise. Because take for example, like the logistics of everything requires that like the button on the worker's shirt was that eco-friendly made, right? You can get down to the nitty-gritty details about everything that goes into every piece, every minutia of an operation, of a so-called green operation, and find things that point back to so-called ungreen things.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, and it's like, how far do you really take it, right? Because it's like, it's kind of the, I would almost argue it's within the same talking point of like, oh, I can't go to like literally any store because like all these big corporations which pretty much monopolize any storefronts now, they all get their products from sweatshops in other countries and stuff like this. And it's like, okay, but you almost like can't avoid that for the most part anymore unless you're going to pay like literally extreme amounts of money to get it from, you know, maybe local places and stuff like that, which is not, it's just not feasible, right? And so this is what I've heard some, I don't know if you'd call them philosophers, whatever you want to say, but they'd call it like everyone is complicit with some form of like what they would say indirect evil, where it's like, yeah, so I'm buying the product that is being not ethically made, but I'm not advocating for it. I'm not like wanting this. I'm not whatever. And so it's kind of like, again, with like what you're saying, it's like, oh, but what about the buttons on the guy's shirt? What about, it's like, you could do that forever. So like, how far do you go with this? You know what I mean? It's just, it's like, again, people get too obsessed with like trying to save the earth that they forget the whole reason they're supposed to be saving it, which should be for the next generation of people so that they don't have to suffer. But yet you're making people suffer in the process of doing it. So it's like, is it a means to an end? Is that where we're at now? Because that's now we're heading into some form of despotism in some way, shape, or form. So
oh yes, 100%.
The social currency thing, like you said, though, is so poignant, though. That is so obviously, like, a big part of it. They're just like, guys, look at us. We're good guys. It's like,
oh, exactly. So gosh. One of the other things, I'm trying to find this. I have this dictionary of Bible themes that also acts as a concordance and dictionary in one. And I'm don't know why I had this pinned. Why is it no longer pinned in my Logos? Dictionary.
I forgot you use Logos. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There we go. Because I kind of want to start with what an idol is, because a lot of this is elevating to a degree that it shouldn't be. You know, the earth and things of such, right? So idolatry, according to the Dictionary of Bible Themes, is the worship or adoration of anyone or anything other than the Lord God. It includes other gods, such as the nations surrounding Israel, images or idols, and the creation itself. Right? So a lot of people are worshiping the creation rather than the creator, or rather, I should say, worshiping the creation, ignoring the creator.
Yeah, you even see that just like even a little bit more directly. It's like all of this kind of in a way feels like it connects with the whole like, you know, Mother Gaia thing and Mother Nature and even some of like when you get down into like the kind of more occult stuff too. I wonder how much of the like the more industrial stuff that we see like in our face is actually connected to like what is it, like Wiccan and stuff like that, because they're always about like nature and like getting energy from the earth. So it's like, you know, they would rather sacrifice people for the sake of the earth, right? I wonder how much of that actually has a tie to stuff like that even.
Oh, the New Age movement was a big proponent. I would say like that came up to rise around the same time, I believe, as this as you know, this whole eco-friendly movement, and the New Age movement very intertwined with like nature and, you know, worshiping the spirituality. I believe New Age is I believe that's the one that says that like everything is God, essentially.
Yeah, like a universalism kind of thing.
Yeah. There is God in this. There is God in that. And by which they are not just simply saying like God is omnipresent, but rather there is a like special manifestation within all of creation.
Right, yeah. Actually, I feel like I just heard a video on that. It was like someone was breaking down like a Jubilee video, I think, that had to do with like Christians versus like New Age, and I think they kind of said very similar types of things. Is they talk about God as like more of a concept rather than a being. It's more like you said, it's like God is in everything, you know, and so I worship and pray to God, but like in all things, which is like, you know, can really muddy the waters, especially too like from a Christian standpoint, where you're like, well, yes, God is like everywhere all at the same time, but he is also like his own thing. He's not like the earth, he's not a tree, he's not, but like his print is there to some degree. So it's like you can try to almost relate to them and try to like pull them into that, into like what you understand as a Christian through that. But it's like it's really interesting how cunning the enemy is in trying to get people to be like, well, it's close, but you're not quite there, and so then it just completely goes off onto something completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing our over in our concise theology series, when we talked about general revelation and common grace, right? Like one of the one of the ones quoted there was Romans 1. Where it says in 19 through 21, it was known about because that which is known about God is evident for them, for God made it evident for them. Since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, both his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. For though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. And we can see this just with like we were saying here with the creation, creator creature distinction, right? Is being muddled. They see the divinity of nature, and rather than it's correctly pointing them towards God, they reject the idea of God, but embrace the idea of God's creation being good. But when you separate that from its true, the world's identity as being a creation, that's when you start to get into this idolatry territory. That's when you start to get into taking things way too far, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I feel like what you notice again, not to like bring it back to the same thing again, but like every sort of cult type mentality is usually it's sacrifice the human for the sake of something else, whatever that thing is, whether it is a some wooden clay god, whether it's an actual demon, whether it's whatever the thing might be, or the earth, whatever. It's always like people have to be sacrificed, and then Christianity is like the only thing that's kind of the inverse of that, where it's like actually God sacrifices himself for the sake of mankind, and then makes all of the rest of creation in essence subdued to man. And I think there's something really poetic and humbling about that element.
Yeah. But because it points to his glory. That it's supposed to be humbling in that sense. Now, another thing that I decided to just pull up my notes and forsake Twitter. But
goodbye, Twitter.
But yeah, no. Actually, I could just there we go. I could just instead of the weird behind the scenes view, we can just actually stream the stream over there. There we go. But yes, so building. So in terms of, I guess while we're on this topic of subduing the earth, right? You mentioned this earlier. Humanity is at the top of the hierarchy. I mean, and you can see that just in the creation account, because man is the crown jewel, placed atop everything. Just the language that is used there. Is very. I mean, the fact that we are created in His image, is something distinct that not everything else has, and also the fact that we are given the breath of life, that detail is not given for the creatures, as well. And then also the entirety of chapter 2, where it gives the creation account, but different perspective. We are focusing in on this more intimate part of creation, coming down to the sixth day, and God, creating man. So, humanity is at the top of the hierarchy for sure. So, but yet others see humans as a plague to the world instead. Right. So it's your viewpoint on the whole role of humanity there's an ology term for that. I'll find it eventually. But yeah.
It's gonna eat him alive. Not remembering. I know how that feels.
Yeah.
I know the word, it's there. Yeah, but no, like it's I've even heard
anthropology. Got it.
There you go. Yeah, that's the one. I was like, I feel like I know it too, but I can't think of it right off the top of my head.
Go on.
Yeah, like in that same vein too. Like I've even heard some theologians / philosophers kind of describe us as like we're like regents of the earth, right? We're so if God, if you view him, he has his kingdom, right? Or even if you put it a little more specifically, it's like he has an empire, which an emperor, has multiple different realms, right? And so one of his realms is Earth, and it's like, well, who's going to rule over Earth? Oh, I got it, and he makes man. And so then we're like regents of the Earth, but what gives us our, like, what are, like, so how it works in, like, human, types of kingdom, political aspects or whatever, is like back in older times, what they would do is they would, a king would seal a letter with his signet ring of some kind or his emblem, right, of some form, and then or he would give a signet ring to like an ambassador that's going to another kingdom to speak with them, so that when they arrive, they're like, oh, he has the signet ring of so and so, that means he comes from him, yeah, let him in. It's as though the king himself was there, right?
Yeah.
And so I've heard it said that it's like, the fact that we're made in God's image is like our signet ring. So like we being placed on earth with the image of God, it's as though, it's as though, like, so if anyone tries to come and take that from us, or if anyone tries to do whatever, it's like they'll see that, oh, they're made in the image of God. That's as though God's there himself. I can't touch that, because if I do, then the Lord of armies will come and smite me, right? And so I feel like when you see things that way, it really puts more of a prominence kind of on what you're saying in terms of that hierarchy, that when people start to see human beings as a plague, it's really that shows you that's kind of the Luciferian creed mindset, which is like the inverse of the biblical creed, which is that it's like, oh, the thing that was made in the image of God and who was to have dominion of the earth. Yeah, actually, you weren't supposed to have dominion of it. You took that, which is probably why that's become part of our vernacular, right? Is to take it. We never took anything; it was given to us. So it's like, yeah, you took that. Now we're gonna have to get rid of you to give it back to the earth, right? And so it's like, it's really funny how it's the inverse of the biblical account, but.
Gosh, no, for sure. Because yeah, like, so is humanity building a new city, tearing down some trees, etc., in order to build a place for the population? Is it, how do we view that?
Me specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and again, this is I've heard from different people on this talking point before too. Usually, what they say is they're like, well, we gotta have like conservation, because human beings, again, the overpopulation idea of saying like they're just spreading, they're destroying all the animals, and now there's no ecosystems and stuff. And I think that can happen on like micro levels, right? Like obviously you just completely wipe out a forest, yeah, like a bunch of animals lose their homes and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, that basically happened to create like New York, right? So like that happened at one point to create New York. However, they try to say by doing that entirely, it's like they almost treat it like you're gonna run out of trees and we won't be able to breathe anymore. It's almost like that's the way that they come across. But the earth is actually, like, people don't realize it. Like they're not, when those talking points are getting thrown out there, if they just buy it hook, line, and sinker, they're not thinking about how how much human beings desperately want to compact. I mean, we've done it since like the Tower of Babel, right? We always want to get to like where we're just one little small group in this tiny little area of the Earth. The Earth can hold millions upon millions, potentially billions of more human beings that but they don't want you to know that because they want to try to thin out the populations because we're too dangerous when there's too many of us and stuff like that, right? But that's one of the big types of things is it's like, well, we can't like, tear down the forest to build up a strip mall or whatever because of so on and so forth. Again, I wouldn't say that it's wrong to be considerate of different things, but when you get so anal about, again, the like you said, the creation, well, I guess that's not a one for one. When you're more concerned about the earth, which was made for us, rather than the human beings whom the earth was made for, now you start to kind of lose me, I think. I think a lot of those types of issues can be solved with just proper planning. But they usually are looked at as, greedy capitalist, enterprises coming in to destroy, because we don't care about the earth. We just need more money. And like, sure, there's probably a small amount of that in different places depending on, but I think in the general, as a general rule of thumb, you really just kind of, again, proper planning and consideration to try and maintain things, because obviously, like, that's why we create like parks and stuff, right? Like national parks and stuff, is because like we want to see the nature, we like seeing the animals, we like seeing being out in those things, and those are all good things too. So it's like, would it be good to tear down like a park, especially in that case for some sort of an industrial thing? I would say no, unless it was absolutely necessary, because there's a reason it was created to be enjoyed, right? But if we're just talking about some space of trees and stuff like that, I'm not someone that's gonna, clutch my pearls over someone wanting to build infrastructure there, necessarily. I think, again, I think there's a proper way to do all things, but they try to really demonize the very act of it, depending on, what activist group you may be talking to. So that's probably what I would say. I feel like that I'm pretty level-headed in that, but I'm still more like, I mean, if someone wants to build something, they should be able to build something, because I think a lot of the times when they're saying, oh, you're gonna destroy the forest, it's like, there's a lot of forest, dude. Like, I feel like you're kind of gaslighting me that it's like, oh, because I built this one thing that now I'm, the next Satan or something. I don't know. Yeah. But
no. That's that, and another side of that is, what it takes to build those houses is lumber, and what lumber is made out of trees, and who makes those trees? Tree farms. And if those tree farms go out of business, then those tree farms that's a greater loss, is to have those tree farms go out of business. That's their crop. Right. Yeah. So to say that, like, paper, et cetera, we should be reducing how much paper we consume, et cetera. No, because if the paper companies go out of business, then those forests get torn down to make the developments that you didn't want.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like a lot of the times too, now, I mean, this is a little bit obtuse because obviously you need to have time for trees to grow and stuff. But if you were even just to have, like you said, like a tree farm where you're that's where you're getting a large majority of your resources. So it's like you're taking from one specific area, and then, rather than just like you said, just like going and constantly spreading and taking trees that are already in existence, it's that definitely would help solve that problem too. Another thing I want to hear your point on it, and you may be getting there eventually, but just that came to my mind, is what you thought of in terms of like the biblical sense and how that might apply to us now, like with the places in Scripture where God said to like let the ground rest for every seventh year, I believe is what it was, and letting it recoup so that we're not just like constantly like working that ground over and over and over. Kind of curious what your thoughts on that might be in terms of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, before that, another thought that I wanted to add on to your other spiel is about the national parks thing, because, like, yes, we should, like, we do want, we don't want to override God's glory with our own. So imagine if we were to put billboards on the Grand Canyon, like that would be magnifying ourselves instead of God. So there are places where preserving nature does glorify God, in that we are preserving the God glorifying aspects of it. But yes, so going to your question here. What was your question?
I was just curious, like, what you thought of God kind of saying that, like, the Israelites need to let the ground rest. I believe it's every 7th year, and then how that might apply to us now. Does it apply to us now? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like, what your thoughts on that are in terms of this conversation.
Well, the context of that is with regards to their agriculture. It's not saying like, oh, you can't go and build houses on the land. It's saying you can't farm on it because there's, like the, which there is a science to it, right? Like you want to rotate your crops. There is like actual benefits to having taking care of your land like that. If you just keep plowing the same stuff in the land year after year, the land kind of loses a bunch of its minerals and value, and it just kind of starts to dust up, and then you get dust bowls. So yeah, no, there's I would say that is almost a set. So how are people using that in the context of like greenness?
I'm not really saying like that. I was saying more just like on the concept of it, like, does that apply to us now? I guess is more like what I was saying. Like, should we be, because like we live in an age, right, where we're constantly working. We don't really apply the Sabbath mentality like we probably should, because God would straight up say, like you said, like, don't like do anything with this land in terms of like tilling crops and stuff like that for like a whole year, but then it was actually better for them in yielding for the other 6 years or whatever, because they did that, like you said, so I was just curious in terms of, since we're talking about earth stewardship and stuff like that, like, do you think that we should continue that practice, and if so, like, how does that look now? Like, how would you implement that? Like, I don't even know if you can convince a government to like say, hey, like, don't make crops for a whole year. I don't know how that would even work. It just kind of came to my mind. I was just curious what you thought.
I mean, we do have means to like prevent the Dust Bowl, right? Like those, because that's I put like kind of like what is the goal behind having it? I would say, what is the principle behind letting your land have rest? Let's actually start there, because like, yes, there's this Sabbath principle, of course, of like God rested on the 7th day, so, and then like having your property rest on the 7th year, sure. But a lot of that, even in that, is like like, okay, I trust God, and I'm going to take him at his word that if I take this year off, that's the year before it will have plenty for me, in order for me to survive. It was a huge act of faith for them to have to do that. So yeah, so that was kind of the purpose behind it, is like, hey, are you going to trust me here, or are you going to try to take things into your own hands and do it your own way for your own gain?
Right, yeah. No, I agree with that. I definitely think that's a part of it, but I feel like it works on like a double kind of thing, like you said, because there is like a science to it that we know even now that God was privy to, I'm sure, right? So it's like he knows that it's like, hey, you got to let this thing rest. If you do, it'll actually be better for you. So will you trust me when I'm telling you this, that this will happen, instead of constantly like taking and taking and taking? It even makes me wonder if, like, when you think of when people did or didn't do those types of things, if that's like maybe why like when Joseph got the when he interprets Pharaoh's dream of the what was that? Was it 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine? It's usually sevens, and I can't remember. Maybe it was threes. But anyway, like when he interprets that, I wonder if that was just strictly a divine thing, or if that was something because the Egyptians had been doing things improperly up until then, that God was like, hey, this is about ready to happen to you. I don't know. It just something I was thinking about that I just figured I'd run by you.
Oh, that the land needed its rest and that they were dust
Yeah.
bowling themselves. It's possible.
'Cause
I don't know if
Go ahead,
I
I'm
would dogmatize that, but though it's you know, I wouldn't say that's outside the realm of possible. But even then, why is it 7 whole years of rest as opposed to just the one? If it just needed a little bit of time to get its nutrients back, and you know, God's plan with it being 7 whole years is because they wanted you know, those back in the homeland for you know, Israel and his kids to have to, you know, mosey over to Egypt for that divine appointment.
Right. Well, and I think it's also interesting too in the same thing. I've even heard some people say that the amount of years that when Israel did not basically let their ground rest, like the amount of years that they didn't let it rest, ends up being the same amount of years that they end up being in captivity to, I believe, Babylon at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, that's an interesting thing. So that seems to be like God putting a particular importance on that and saying, hey, I'm gonna basically make sure the land rests by making sure you literally can't touch it. And this is part of your punishment for not like listening to me, or discipline, however you want to word that. But
correct. And I'm pretty sure that in the I think I'm getting to that. I'm reading through the Pentateuch, the first 5 right now, and I think I'm getting to that point actually here in my reading. Where it does say, like, when God instructs them, you know, to do all these Sabbath things, I believe there is a warning given with the command saying that for however many Sabbaths you ignore, I'm going to force that Sabbath on the land. So that was God keeping his promise there, by making it those, you know, that specific amount of years that they were in exile. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. If you come across that and it shows you the scripture that says that, send that to me like in DMs or something, because I'd like to read that, because I don't quite remember that particular part, especially in like, and again, it's like assuming that all that, like, that God, you know, has all those things in place like he does in the Old Testament. Then you know, you go to like New Testament. I know we're a little bit off topic. I'm sorry. I'll stop with this. But you know, you go to like New Testament, and it's like, it's no wonder why a lot of the Jews and Pharisees and whatever held the Sabbath in such a particular regard, because they had seen and or heard of, probably through oral tradition or through their writings, of like what happens when you don't follow the Sabbath. So it's like, you know, in that regard, I feel like you can have a little bit of sympathy for their feelings on the Sabbath when Jesus tells them, like, hey, was the Sabbath made for man, or was the man made for Sabbath? Right? Like, what, you know, like, what are we doing here? Why are you getting mad when I'm trying to heal on the Sabbath? It's like, because they didn't fully understand it, but yet at the same time, it's like they have you know, the stories of the dude that, like, literally the day the 10 commandments are decreed, a guy goes to pick up sticks on the Sabbath and gets struck dead for it or whatever, right? So it's like, I think that some of those things are interesting, and just in terms of when we're talking about earth stewardship and resting, and in terms of, you know, taking care of the earth and the things involved with that, it's like, you know, like how I don't know what other way to say it other than like, how seriously does God really take that, you know? So just kind of food for thought, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, well, I found where the Sabbath year is presented. It's in Leviticus 25.
Okay.
Yeah, when you come to the land, 6 years, 7th year, you shall prune. Yeah, okay. But during the 7th year, the land shall have Sabbath rest, shall not sow. What grows of its own accord from the harvest, you shall not reap. And Sabbath produce should be land. Okay, so it's not. I could have. Okay, so it wasn't in the Levitical account. I'll have to dig for that because I know I know it was in, because there's a couple spots in the Pentateuch that it goes through the Sabbath command. In one of the spots. I'll have to dig off stream.
Yeah, if and when you find it, let me know.
Yeah. But yes. Okay. So gosh, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28. Found it.
Okay.
Oh, it is a passage I'm coming up to. Okay, so I'll read through it on my own time and make sure that this is what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, I've gone into a nerdy rabbit hole, but this is a good rabbit hole. Anyways, so I guess with some of our time remaining, since we got about half an hour left, I do want to make sure that we give enough time to the opposite side of this coin, the stewardship aspect, because we do so all belongs to God, right? Everything belongs to God, period. So when God tells us, hey, fill the earth and subdue it, and give and have dominion and stuff like that. We act on his behalf. We are the tenants of the land, you could say, and we are to steward everything to the glory of God, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. So while we don't want to glorify the earth above God, we do want to be respectful of the fact that God has given us this creation, and we haven't really talked much about animals yet. So creature and just animal abuse in general is a real thing. Now there are some organizations out there, I think PETA definitely takes things a little too far. I think they elevate the creation a little bit too much, but we should not be treating our animals cruelly. And even going back to the Pentateuch here, there's a bunch of animal cruelty laws given, some of which have to do with pagan rituals, boiling the don't boil a goat in its mother's milk. As a goat, yeah, which was a pagan ritual. So some of that is rooted in that, but then also just the animal cruelty aspects therein of how to treat your livestock and the animals around you.
Yeah, well, I even think it's interesting too, like on the kind of separate side of that as well, like how I had just seen again recently and totally had forgotten it existed, that there was actual punishments for the animals should they like if a bull gores a man or something like that, then you put the animal to death. It's like, oh, but the animal isn't a person, it doesn't probably know what it's doing. It's just acting on instinct, and yet it still is God putting the hierarchy there of it doesn't matter. It's the bull is lesser than the person in the grand scheme of things. But it's like you said, some of those rituals and stuff. You really can kind of just look at what a lot of the pagan groups during that time were doing with animals, and then when you see God say, hey, do the inverse of that. It's that kind of gives you whatever they were doing was not the proper way to be stewarding the earth in all the ways, whether that was things like the sacrifices, or even things when you get into bestiality. I mean, it gets into really crazy areas of things that then God seemingly had to say hey, you got to watch these types of things. And so I've definitely always been, I would argue personally, I think animals are more important than flora, like fauna's more important than flora, specifically just in the sense that, you know, they feel things, they think to a certain degree, not the same way that we do, but they and they don't have souls the same way, but it's like they still feel pain and stuff, and so it's like, you know, I would definitely be more like, I get more the people that try to say, hey, let's preserve the animals more so than like, hey, let's like make sure trees don't die or whatever. That just makes a little more sense to me. But like the PETA thing, like you said, was kind of funny to me because like they don't even follow their own rules. They do a lot of things that are unethical, which I think is ironically like morbidly funny, not actually funny, but morbidly. So yeah, no, I would say I'd be a little bit more on the side of the animals over plants in the grand scheme of things. However, I do think it's funny then, like, not to take it totally in this full direction, but it kind of makes me think of the again, you can take those things too far because there are people who say, you know, you can't kill the eagle eggs or the sea turtle eggs. Those are little versions of them that are trying to come into being. And then those same people that say that have no problem with things like abortion or something, right? It's like, so again, everything at the sacrifice of man for the sake of everything else is like kind of what you see. It's interesting how the people that are very like hell-bent on that mindset usually will then want to sacrifice people as a result. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Fire, welcome, man. Good to see you in the chat. Because another thing on animal cruelty, one of the things that my pastor said was a gray area, and I kind of want to get your take on this, is hunting. Hunting is obviously permitted, right? Like we see God give people quail specifically to hunt and eat, etc. Even though like the concept of eating an animal is a post-fall thing, it is still permitted. Nonetheless, what about for sport? If we are hunting animals for nothing other than sport, is that cruel?
You know, it's like, that's an interesting thing because like I'm coming from a perspective of somebody who has never truly hunted before. Like I've taken care of like small game that were like you know, something like a bird that was like causing issues with, you know, like pecking on windows and stuff like that or whatever. But like I never have really just gone hunting for any purpose, for sport or for actually like using the meat and stuff like that. I think my opinion personally is you can do both. I think it'd be okay if you did both. If you are hunting purely for the sake of killing the thing and leaving it, I would say that's wrong. But if you're hunting it and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this because, you know, like some people are hunters, they enjoy that, right? But then you use the thing afterwards, right? Like I'm thinking like how the Indians did stuff, right? Indians would hunt, but then they would use like literally every part of the animal. And they had the whole mentality of like, you know, forgive me for doing this, but you know, like they respected what they killed almost, you know. I think there's something kind of wholesome about that, dare I say. I don't know how you would word that, but I think that'd be my answer to that, because I don't think it's necessarily wrong if people enjoy hunting. I think it's wrong when you hunt and then you just leave the thing and you just shot it in and left it alone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's more so what I was getting at.
Yeah. That's where I would probably have more of an issue, because obviously we know like poaching is terrible. Yeah. That's why we don't have like rhinos anymore. Apparently like white rhinos are almost extinct now because of them just like hunting them, taking their horn, and then that's it, and then they just leave them and they just do that en masse forever and ever. I would argue that's a form of sport, even though they're doing it for the horn, like they're doing it to gain a resource, but the way they're doing it is very I don't know, like you said, cruel. I don't know a better word than that right off the top of my head, but
I agree.
Yeah, no, just to kill something, I've never been a fan of. So that's where I would probably say with that. But I think for the people that are big hunters, you can do both. You can say, I enjoy hunting and I want to do that because I enjoy the thrill of the hunt and all this different stuff, even though it's not my thing. That's never been like, you know, short of like playing a game like Monster Hunter, you know? Yeah. But but if you, as long as you like take the thing, like again, if you're going deer hunting and you turn it into meat, and you know you want to keep the head, that's fine, whatever. It's just, but yeah, just to kill it, just to leave it and be like, yeah, I killed the thing. It's like I would just be saying, I would say, okay, I don't think necessarily God is gonna say. I don't know if I would say that he would say that you're sinning, but I would question, like, why do you want to do that? Like, what compels you to want to just kill something and then leave it? You know, maybe like question your motives there a little bit, and then, you know, pray to God about that and say, like, you know, what's what, you know, like is the, you know, like just take it to God and say, like, see what he tells you, because I would say that there's maybe something askew with your motives if you just like to kill things just to kill them. I know people that would just go and like shoot, like, just for fun, just shoot like birds, or you know, take like a slingshot and like slingshot squirrels out of trees and stuff like that, and it's just like, haha, I got it. And it's like,
Ooh.
okay, you know, like, that part, I would say, yeah, that seems kind of cruel. But again, if it's like a pest or something like that, and it's not, like you said, if it's just for sport, it's different. But yeah, I don't know, that's probably what I would say.
Yeah. And that was really what I was getting at, was that like poaching level of stuff. Because like,
Yeah.
that I would definitely say is immoral for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, hunting, I would agree. Hunting for sport in and of itself, if it's, you know, like, oh, like, you know, I you know, harvested, you could call it like harvesting some turkeys in my backyard for example, right? So gosh, there's like 10 fruit flies that just came out of the woodworks all
I
of
can
a
actually
sudden.
see them on camera.
Gosh. Speaking of hunting for sport, I need to grab my racket from the other room at some point or something. But
He's about ready to go against
here's the
everything he
thing.
just said.
If I go and grab that little electric racket thing, by the time I come back, they're gone.
Yeah, they know, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Yes. Ghost, welcome in. Yes, we have dominion over the animals. In a biblical sense, why not hunt for sport? Just simply for, I guess you could say a respect of life. Because if we are just killing it in a nonsensical way, literally just like for the sake of killing, I don't know, that seems a little backwards, because again, like, in the Garden of Eden, there was we are to respect, and that's actually, Lufai has a great point. Adam named all of the animals in Genesis. Which is twofold. So that there is man having that kind of dominion over the animals, right? To even give them a name, which could also be tied up in their purpose, etc. So if man got to decide that, right, which is an authority that was given to man by God, so we should not go abusing that authority. But at the same time, by giving something a name, we should also treat it well, right? You give your kid a name. You don't go like hunting your kid for sport.
Right. And I think too, like, you know, in the initial nature of how we were supposed to be with the animals gives you an indication of how we're supposed to treat them now. Only the difference is sure, you can eat them, and sure, you could do them, you could kill them for sacrifices. In fact, you had to kill them for sacrifices, so there is certain things like that. And you even have like where, you know, like depending on where you live and stuff, like deer population, like if they allowed that to just keep going, deer would destroy other things because they just eat everything. So like it's actually a good thing to thin out the population. And that would be a great indication for me personally, in my mind, where the people that enjoy hunting for sport, that's a great reason to hunt in general.
Yes.
And you know, yes, you can still use the thing, but even if in that case, for whatever reason you didn't, there's still a purpose behind why you're doing it, because it's like, I gotta thin out the herd so it doesn't destroy other things. I would argue that's along the lines of what you would say. That's almost like well, not the pinnacle, but it's a good example, I think, of stewarding and subduing the earth in the current world that we have,
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, I'm trying to protect something else by destroying something else to an extent, not eradicating it. And that's what poaching does, is it eradicates something from the face of the earth. I even heard like there were like small dinosaurs as recent as like the 17, maybe even early 1800s, that were like they'd come up to like about maybe stomach level, maybe waist level, and they were kind of like pests, and people would club them. There's
Oh.
apparently accounts of that, these like little bipedal little small dinosaurs of some kind, and reptiles, and they would club them to death, and they eventually clubbed them out of existence. So it's like, those could still be around if you didn't just club them into extinction. So
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah. So, so as to like easy to sin, as Ghost is asking here in chat, well, I would say hunting is not a sin. Poaching, that is a gray area as to if it's a sin or not. I would advise against it. In all honesty, I would say it is not. I would lean towards poaching being a sin for the sake of not stewarding well our earth, and like just kind of the cruelness behind it, and I don't know.
Will.
Yeah, just go ahead.
I have an idea just based off of what you're saying. Could you argue that the type of heart that you would have to have in
Yes.
order to be someone who poaches, that would be the sin, maybe more so than even just the taking the thing out, so to speak? Could you even argue that, maybe? Because that's where my mind was going. It's like, what is your purpose? Like, what is your heart condition to want to just kill something and not care about its extinction? Like, that's, I think, where my mind would go. But
that, I would agree. Yes, I think that's where you put into words what my mind was thinking as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. But yes, so so other things in terms of like stewardship, just as we have like about 15 minutes left. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up, Hood?
No, that was the only one that I had thought of, even prior to the podcast, as I was just curious what you thought about the 7-day thing, just because I was like, I've heard some people say one thing or another, and I'm like, probably to some degree we actually follow that process in farming now, like in terms of rotating crops and stuff, but we do in our highly industrialized civilization that we now live in. Everything is very like go, instant gratification, decadent society. It's like the thought of telling somebody you have to rest for even a day, let alone a year, they'd freak out. They'd be like, well, you can't do that. You can't ever, So it's like, that was my only one. Other than that, I don't think I have anything particular that immediately comes to mind, at least biblically. We talked about a lot of the other stuff that happens more politically, but yeah, again, without beating a
Oh, hello? Did we just lose Hood? Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I lost power for a second there, so now I'm on my phone, but
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just raining a little bit, but yeah, my lights just started to kind of dim, and I'm like, oh, it's probably fine, and then then everything went dark. So, but anyway, I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but as I try to start my computer back up here.
All good. So yeah, I guess just kind of like putting a bow on everything here, right? We also should note that like, okay, actually, before I put a bow, another thought that came into my mind that I want to present before that. So I I've seen a lot of Christians get into veganism because, in the Garden of Eden, they didn't eat meat, and nor will
Good
we be
point.
eating meat in the world to come, which I do believe is true, but I don't think that that would mean that we shouldn't that we can't eat the meat now.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, God specifically says everything was okay to eat. He says it like twice. So he says it during Noah's time when Noah exits the ark, and then he says it to, Peter and so on and so forth in terms of like he's like, don't say what I've said is clean is unclean, basically, right? And he's talking
Mhm.
about people, but that still was in reference to food. Um, so I think, I think some people probably view God as like, without realizing it, they probably view him as wishy-washy on that because it's like, oh, he said everything was good to eat, but then he said, oh, you can't, eat certain things, if they have hooves of this kind and this and that. And some things are unclean to eat, but that's because they're not really looking at, I think, the grand scheme of like the purpose behind why he's saying not to eat that thing. It's not that it
Mhm.
was like necessarily evil to eat those things. Again, it
Mhm.
could have been a ceremonial thing, like because you said like how you were saying like how what the pagans were doing at the
Yep.
time. But it also could have been just like disease, right? Like pork is like super known for carrying like bad, potentially deadly diseases if it's not cooked properly. And so that may have just been him trying to tell them like, hey, like I'm protecting you, don't do this so that you don't hurt yourself, in a similar way as to keep the Sabbath day holy, not because that particular day needs to be special. You don't let yourself rest, you're hurting yourself, right? Like, so, I think it can fall under that type of an. But yeah, that's a good point because, like, I know, I actually have friends of the family that are so vegan mindseted that they'll eat like jars of peanut butter just to try and get their protein. Still don't get enough protein and
Oh.
end up being sickly and all sorts of stuff. But on top of that, this kind of goes full circle to what you were saying about idolatry because people who are vegan often are they're almost like worshiping the nutrition labels, right? Because they
Hmm.
have to look at every little thing. Does this have egg? Does this have honey? Does this have milk? Does it have, and if it does, then it's like, oh, I can't do this, I have to. It's like, so what do you really sacrifice? Like, you're trying to say, oh, I don't want to be cruel to the animals, but then ironically you're almost being cruel to the creation that God said takes greater precedence, which is the one that's made in his image, in a way. It's like, so I find that notion kind of interesting anyway. But here,
I
I'm
don't,
going to switch over really quick while you're talking.
yeah, I don't know if that per se would be a worship of those nutrition labels or something. I don't know if I would necessarily label it that way, but the it could because it's not because those that do it are like I've talked to one of those people that's um went vegan from that Christian mindset I was mentioning,
Mm.
and now like she boasts that it is a benefit to her health and such. So she probably also has to get her protein from other places. You're right, but um yeah, so I don't know if that's per se always out of a wrongful idolatry, but
I wouldn't say that it
you
always
are
is.
right in that there are many that do.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it always is. I'm saying like I think if it becomes to where it's that where you become that anal about it and you have to be like searching all the time and stuff, that almost can like it can transform into a form of idolatry, I guess is what I was trying to say because
Okay.
you're so it's like wherever you're putting the greater amount of your focus, right? So again, like if you're just doing something because you're like, oh yeah, it makes me feel better to eat this way and I whatever, then like yeah, all the power to you. But some people get to where it's like they have to like analyze every little thing to make sure it doesn't have like animal product in there at all, and you know it can become to where you know again like where's your focus at really, I guess is like where I'm coming from. But so
Yeah. Another thing, just kind of as we head towards wrapping up our time. I want to save the best for last year. this world is temporary, right? We have to realize that as well. That there will be a new creation, an even grander Grand Canyon, etc. So there's yes, there is a lot that we should absolutely do to steward this world, because this world is it's a gift to us from God. We should view it as such and make sure that we're taking care of it. But at the same time, we do know that there is a greater world to come.
Yeah, and even if you look at it a little bit more from like a bluntly, I mean, everything here will burn eventually.
Yeah,
like it's all going to be gone, you know. So in that regard, but yeah, I mean, it is still a gift that was given to us as it stands right now. So it's there's a lot of really good things we can do with the earth and with the produce that comes from it, whether that's food or even resources, metals and gems and whatever else you gain from we all of the stuff that we have, all of the computers we're using now, it's all stuff made from the earth. So it's like in those regards, that it's kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it, that it's like the stuff we were able to make out of the gift that God gave to us. So that's a good point though. That's a good point, that it is just temporary, and that should be probably in the forefront of anyone's mind that is trying to be like, well, climate change, and that and again, the people that are so heavily hell-bent on climate change mentality are not thinking biblically, right? They're not thinking, hey, we're heading toward or in the end times, depending on what where your belief is. And so it's like they're thinking they're not thinking of an afterlife. They're not thinking of hey, things are about to be getting wrapped up here pretty shortly anyway. They're just thinking in a sense of like oh, if we don't do this, then we're going to become this dust rock in the middle of space, and everything like if we nuke everything's just, the whole planet's going to be a sheet of glass. And obviously we don't want to just start hitting buttons, because we know that what end times prophecy says. But at the same time, you can take comfort in knowing there is no amount of infrastructure, there's no amount of culling of the earth, there's no amount of like really any of that is going to we're not gonna like destroy ourselves before the prophecy of Revelation, I guess is what I'm saying. So whatever happens in Revelation, we know that's coming. So you don't really have to be afraid of, oh no, am I conserving the earth? That doesn't mean that you don't do things. I'm just saying it's like, you don't have to be afraid. It's really the thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, also welcome in Kat with the big raid. Let's go. I am very honored. Wait, did you run out of stuff on your timer, or are you delaying things for another day? Interesting. Welcome in, Raiders. Let me just Gabe, welcome in. I don't know if I got to welcome you earlier. Doki Doki, welcome in. Thunder, hello. And Dan's welcome back. Kat, of course. And oh my goodness.
Zaphanath.
What?
Zaphanath, I think is how.
Zaphanath. Okay, thank you. Nightney as well. So awesome to have all these friends, pouring their way into here just as we're wrapping up. Got someone's very generous, but you're running on fumes. Yes. Go get some rest there, Kat. Please. Yo, and River's in here. Yes, has a human body. This
just is for now. I have the preppy boy body right now. Yeah, getting my gas from my gaslighting.
Yeah. I'll call you Zaf if it's easier. Okay. I'll probably go with that. Yes, absolutely. That'll be easier to remember for sure. Thank you.
For anyone wondering, with the topic that we're doing of Earth stewardship, this is the clean gas, right? This is the kind that the what is that? Is it the one that has more ethanol in it? That's supposed to be cleaner, I think. Yeah. I'm getting that kind of gas, whatever that gas is. I forgot what it is.
Wandering Lightsaber, thank you for stopping by as well. Y'all are joining us just as we are like starting to wrap things up here. But though, yeah, but though we'll definitely summarize here as we wrap up because I think that'll be appropriate, anyways.
Yeah.
But the one more point before we do that on this whole end times mentality. Oh, and also let Lizzie welcome in. It is like when there are we shouldn't have this mentality of like, oh, the world's about to end, so who cares? Because
Yeah.
the Bible speaks very much against that when people are like saying like, oh, the world's going to end, who cares if I do work, etc. Right? No, that it should not be used as the world coming to an end should not be used as an excuse to sin.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or to abuse the gift that was given to us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But at the same time, it is good. It is a good thing to view what will last forever, and that is it is humanity, right? So, which brings us loops us back to the distinguishment between creature and creator, because yeah, humanity, as we said earlier before, top of the hierarchy, the crown jewel of creation, is how we are to view humans, not as a plague on this world that is, oh, look, it's because humans are expanding that, this forest is gone, etc. No, it's a good thing for humans to be thriving.
Yes. Yeah, and that would be like probably the best way to summarize my position of, yeah, it's good to let humans thrive, and it's really not at the sake of the environment, so to speak, like they try to tell you that it is. And I always think it's funny too, because I hadn't mentioned it up to this point. I always think it's funny too that the people that usually are always we have to take care of the earth, and all you people are bad, and it's just all you people are you don't want to give up your gas cars for electric cars. These are the same people that have like private jets that they fly to go to the bathroom and then go back to like wherever they are. I'm just saying, like,
Yep.
like don't listen to the people that literally don't listen to their own advice.
Yeah. Yes.
But
oh, you're being accused of being a chimera in chat now.
oh man, of course, yeah, guys, I'm not hoodlet chick this time. I have a person body, a quite studly person body, thanks to Will. He's given me a cool body this time around. Look at me with this sick pose that I got here. I'm like a model.
Yes, indeed. He's hoodlum man.
Hoodlum man.
A big, strong man. Shout outs to anyone that gets that reference. Alrighty. But yes, so, yeah, I mean, anything else that you want to kind of say in conclusion?
No, I think I said everything I pretty much wanted to. So, other than thanks for having me, man. This was good. And like I said, I don't really like in the circles that I've talked about and the people that I know, I don't really talk about stuff of this nature. So it was kind of a nice brain exercise for me because it's something I don't really think about often, So thanks for bringing me on for this particular topic, man.
Yes, indeed. It's so good. Oh my goodness! It's like every 5 minutes, there's just a swarm of the gosh darn fruit flies. I'm going to be asserting dominion over these fruit flies. You watch me. Gosh.
Will's about to go poaching fruit flies and completely go against everything that he's just been saying for the last hour and a half.
Yes. Gosh. But yes. Yes. Yeah. Would you like to close us in prayer there, good sir?
Yeah, man. Thanks. Yeah, let's do that. So, Lord, thank you for letting me and Will be here to talk about your word and to talk about the earth that you've given to us. And we pray that the different topics that we discussed would bless the people that heard them. And if anyone was questioning how they should handle the earth and how they should handle people in terms of climate change and all those things, that you might show them your truth, Lord. Show them the truth of how we should conduct ourselves, not just with the earth, but with each other. And show us, Lord, exactly the way that we should be just conducting ourselves in general, Lord, with this earth that you've given us. And we thank you for all the things that have come from the earth, Lord, that have blessed us, even just the computers that we're using to be able to talk with one another even now. All of that was possible because of the world that you gave to us. So we pray, Lord, that we would be able to steward the earth properly until you come back and give us a new heaven and new earth, and show each of us as individuals what we should be doing in the meanwhile to help have dominion of the earth as you said for us to, Lord. Thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you're about to do. I guess I want to say too as well. I just want to bless Will and bless him, Lord, with for having me come on and for having this podcast, Lord, and for trying to share your truth and your will with everyone. And thank you for putting that on his heart, and for giving him such a heart that he would want to try and help take the complicated and make it simple, Lord. So thank you for everything that you've done for us and everything that we're about to do. In Jesus' precious holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.